We are now in Parasha Trumah, Exodus 25, 1, 27, 19, and the Haftarah is 1 King 5, 26 to chapter 6, verse 13. Exodus 25, 1 says, "And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and let them take for me a high offering, Trumah. You will take my high offering from any man who will have a liberal mind." We now turn to the third part of the book of Exodus with the instruction for the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Apart from the tragic incident of the golden calf, the rest of the book of Exodus is devoted to the preparations and the building of the Mishkan, which is to house the Shekhinah, the divine presence. The scroll ends with the completion of the building of the tabernacle and the return of the Shekhinah. So Parasha Trumah, Tetzaveh, the following one, and the first part of Kitisa form a unit that speaks of the commandments related to the building of this Mishkan. So the Midrash tells us Hashem wanted the Klal congregation, Israel, to build a Mishkan so that His Shekhinah could reside among them. The physical dimension of the Mishkan, made of wood, was nevertheless only a symbol in comparison to the real place where the Shekhinah wants to reside, the heart of every Israelite. And the Baal HaTurim tells us, how is it possible to make one's heart a Mishkan for the Shekhinah? It is by dedicating one's heart to the Torah and to the Avodat Hashem, service to Hashem. So, what is the purpose of the Mishkan? We start to understand. They shall make for me a mikdash, sanctuary, and I shall dwell shachanti in their midst. We study in Parashat Yitro that a marriage contract, a wedding contract, a marriage contract, was signed between Hashem and Israel, ratified in the blood. That was the first step for the wedding. Now it is a matter of preparing a house for the future spouses. This holy house, the Mikdash, is in fact the prefiguration of the heavenly house that will come down from heaven at the end of times. We can read in Revelation 15:5, "And after these things I saw, and the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened." And Revelation 21:2, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband." So the following verse tells us about this divine veil. We just read it. "And I shall make asu." Asu means plural. The entire people are called to build the Mishkan. They will make it. Everybody is called to build a place where His presence should reside. Each member of God's people must contribute his stone, his gifts, his life for the building, the construction of His body. It is a holy and set-apart place that houses the holy majesty. The word sanctuary, mikdash, comes from the root Kuf Dalet Shin, which means to sanctify, to set apart. Like in Leviticus 11:45, it says, "For I am the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that I might be your God, and you shall be holy kadoshim, ki ani kadosh, for I am holy." It is also quoted in 1 Peter 15:16, "But as He who called you is holy, kadosh, you also be kadoshim in all your conduct, for it is written, Be holy, for I am kadosh." The word "I will dwell," shachanti, means to dwell, to abide, to rest. The word tabernacle, mishkan, is constructed from this root. God seeks to inhabit and fill a holy place, set apart for His holiness. This root is also the basis of the word that we find in Song 1:4, Song of Song, "Draw me, mashcheni, after you." It's like it's man's innate desire to be drawn to God, to His Creator. And finally, the word Shekhinah is also built with the same root. Everything is at the same root. So where does Hashem desire to dwell? In the midst, betocham, in our midst, in our hearts. The word betocham comes from a root that means between, in the middle, within, intermingle, intertwine, really inside of us. It is indeed in our midst, in the midst of His people, in the center of the heart that Hashem wants to dwell since the beginning. He has the desire to honor us with His presence, as in the Gan Eden. And the text specifies that is not much such in the tabernacle, in the midst of Him, that He wished to establish His dwelling place, but in the midst of His people, in His heart. That has always been His will. 1 Corinthians 3:16 tells us, do you know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? And Ephesians 3:17, how does He dwell in us? So that the Messiah may dwell in your hearts by faith. Yeshua came to dwell, to tabernacle within the Word. We find the same word again in Hebrew, John 1:14, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt, vaishkon, mishkan, Shekhinah, same root. Everything is all about the same context. We are in the same context. The Mishkan will give us a glimpse of the heart in which Yeshua wants to dwell. This is the first point. Since the Torah is a book of prophetic instruction, we'll discover what conditions are required to house His holy presence, really in a nutshell, because this study is so deep that it will require months of studies. So what was in the heart of the Mishkan? The Torah. What was in the heart of the Ark of the Covenant? The Torah. And then we have a parallel. Ramban, Nachmanid, makes a parallel between the revelation of Mount Sinai and the Mishkan. The ark contains the tables, symbol of the Mount Sinai covenant. The clouds rest on the Mishkan as it did on Mount Sinai. God speaks to Moshe from the Mishkan as He spoke to him on Mount Sinai. So the glory of God will manifest itself in the Mishkan as it did on Mount Sinai. The altar of sacrifices where the son of Israel must offer their sacrifices, the olot and the shlamim, holocaust and peace offerings, is similar to the one on Mount Sinai where they offered also olot and shlamim. A cloud of incense served as a screen between the people in the courtyard and the Lord who manifested Himself between the two cherubims. A cloud separated the children of Israel who were standing at the bottom of the mountain from the Lord who was speaking at the top of Mount Sinai. So there is a connection between revelation on Mount Sinai, the Mishkan, and the heart where He desired to dwell. The Mishkan has really a physical and spiritual prophetic function. So the different components, really again in a nutshell. The offering. First of all, the instruction begins with the offering. This is not like an offering per se, but rather a restitution. The children of Israel are called to come and give back with good heart what already belongs to the Lord. Exodus 25:3, speak to the children of Israel and let them take from them, yikhu, for me a high offering, Trumah. You shall take tikhu, my high offering, Trumati, for any man who will have a liberal mind, and this is the Trumah that you shall take, tikhu, from them, gold, silver, and brass. The tradition says that the Torah was given to those who eat Trumah. The Midrash tells us that those who ate manna in the desert did not need to work to earn their bread because it was provided daily. Similarly, the Kohanim did not need to work because their needs were provided by the Trumah. This is why the verse says, and let them take for me a high offering, can be interpreted this way. He who studies the Torah is as if he had me with him. The Torah belongs to me and you received it. Take it and take me with it. So we have to take Hashem with the Torah. What a beautiful gift. The Midrash relates that Betzalel, literally meaning the shadow of God, the architect of the tabernacle, had the gift of discerning the intentions of the hearts of those who came to bring the offering. Depending on their motivation and dedication, the offering was used to build the ark, the menorah, or the outer court. God asked his people for a total consecration, and the text tells us, "Let them take a portion for me, from every man whose heart is in it. You shall take my portion." I want the hearts of the people. Everything belongs to him already. He's the one who provides even for our offerings. But what he expects are voluntary gifts which come from the sanctuary of hearts in which he wants to dwell. The Matthew 6:21 tells us, "For where your treasure is, there will be your hearts also." So the three parts of the Mishkan correspond to the three functions united in man. The Holy of Holies, which contains the Ark and the Torah, embodies the purely spiritual sphere whose seat is the head. The Holy Place, which includes a table of bread, the candlestick, the menorah, and the altar of incense, represents the intermediate sphere between the spiritual and the material, which combines the consecration of aspirations, passions, food. This is the seat, is the heart of man. The outer court, together with the altar of sacrifice, represents the physical world whose seat is in the lower limbs. And the whole body of man, its 248 bones and 365 nerves, according to tradition, must be constituted as a holy Mishkan to house the spirit. So let's see some of the components. The Ark of the Covenant. And they shall make an Aron of Shittim. Aron, Ark, shared the same letters than the word light, Or. The Torah is the light of the word that was manifested in the flesh. We can read in John 8:20, Yeshua therefore spoke unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. So he is the light. The propitiatory of the ark. You shall make a kaporet, mercy seat of pure gold. This mercy seat was made of pure gold of one piece, including the two cherubim stretching out their wings. It represents the human soul yearning for the Creator. The human soul is the image of God. Although this mercy seat was used to cover the ark, it was distinct just as the soul is distinct from its physical body. The initial of the phrase, between the two cherubim, mi bein shnei akruvim, formed the word Moshe, Moses. And what does Moshe represent? Torah again. God speaks to us through his Torah, through his word, and it must be treasure in our heart. Psalm 119:11 say, I have hidden your word in my heart that I may not sin against you. These two cherubim also represent the two houses of Israel, which will finally be united by the blood of the renewed covenant. The word mercy seat, kaporet, meaning seat of mercy, place of atonement, shares the same root than kapara, which is to make atonement, to redeem, to forgive, to cover sin. The table of showbread. The table and food have an important place in Jewish tradition. It is a means of family reunification, a privileged place for sharing, and it offers the means to practice hospitality, tzedakah, which means justice among the poor and so on. But we must be careful not to defile this holy altar, this table, with words of contention generated by the Satan. In Exodus 25:23 it says, and you shall make a table of shittim. And the numerical value of the word shittim, acacia wood, is equivalent to that of the word Satan, 359. On the other hand, the letters of that word shulchan, table, are the anagram, the acronym of the word for the serpent, lenachash. By consecrating our table with the words of Torah, which is the salt, we can counteract the power of the Satan who caused the first man to sin with his mouth. The menorah, the symbols attached to the menorah are endless. It was the glory of the tabernacle, the glory of the temple. And you shall make a candlestick of pure gold. The candlestick shall be made of beaten gold. Its foot, stem, and cups, its apples and flowers shall be taken from it. So Rashi gives us the following interpretation. The candlestick was beaten, struck, with a hammer until its stems, chalices were formed. It means that in order to achieve holiness, suffering is necessary. Each blow given refines and shapes the tool to the desired form. Tradition teaches that one must master 3 things in order to study the Torah deeply: sexuality, food, and the words of the mouth. The menorah alludes to these 3 things. The foot of the menorah alludes to sexuality. The road alludes to the trachea, kaneh in reference to the Hebrew word for road, through which man speaks. The cups allude to the alcoholic beverages, the apples to food, the flowers to superfluous pleasure that distract the mind from study. Each of these elements must be struck to be refined into the desired shape so that the light of the Torah may shine in our homes. And the word menorah is composed of the word candle, ner, and the letters mem and hey, whose added numerical value is 45, the same as men, Adam. This means that if a man wants to become a light in this world, he will follow the mitzvot, the precepts of the Torah, in the light of the Ruach HaKodesh. Our offering must be totally submitted to His will. We must return all things to Him and put the material goods that He offered us to His service with a good heart. The source of our blessing is found in our obedience to His commandments. Since Yeshua is at the heart of the Torah, it is in Him that we can discover the relation contained in the ark. It says in Talmud Yoma, "You shall overlay the ark with pure gold inside and outside." Any Torah scholar whose interior is not like his exterior is not a good Torah scholar. So there are 2 ways of expressing desire. One is from the intellect, while the other is from the heart. We touch our soul to the Shekhinah by observing each commandment with desire, enthusiasm, and great love. This is in fact the desire of the heart that is the most important. The intensity of our desire will depend on the love with which we think of Hashem at those moments. Rashbi, the Shimon Bar Yochai of blessed memory, discusses the concept of heart desire at length. He said the intensity of our desire will depend on the love and thirst we have for Him. As we direct our will to perform the divine service of our Master with all our soul and all our strength, this will permeate our acts. It is the fuel of the heart, for it is from the heart that life is drawn into all parts of the body. It says in Luke 6:45, "For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." So this burning desire to serve Him is attracting the light, the energy of His Shekhinah. And this is the divine help prepared to indwell those who serve the Holy One. The Shekhinah immediately comes to dwell in our hearts, depending on the intensity of our desire, and each part of our body becomes a vehicle or a dwelling place for it. One then becomes a part of the Holy One. This is the esoteric meaning of take from yourselves a high offering to God, a Trumah, from yourselves. This is how we can give being a lively offering. According to the intensity of our desire, He manifests His Shekhinah and gives us the tool to become the vessel He seeks to pour out His abundance. An egoist is called idolater because he has room only for himself in his heart. We must be like the morning watchman who waits for the dawn to see the morning star rise in his heart. Then at that time, he will be able to fully dwell in the sanctuary of our heart. So this parasha is so rich, I'm going to stop here. Again, we are only touching the tip of the iceberg. This approach is very deep, very rich. I encourage you to come and study at the yeshiva and you can follow the personal enrichment or the graduation and just dive into the Word and just discover all the beauty of the Torah that is just at hand for us. Everything is there. He wants to dwell in our hearts. So be blessed. Have a beautiful Shavua Tov. Have a beautiful week. Rosh Chodesh Adar Tov. Tomorrow is the month of Adar. And see you soon for the next parasha. Shalom and thank you for listening.